The two U.S. states combined, Florida and Georgia, account for almost 10% of all Americans. But Florida still takes the trophy home in terms of population. You'd be surprised to know that back in the year of 1950, Georgia had a population that trumped Florida's by more than 700,000 Americans. Fast forward to today, and the tables have turned dramatically. Going back to the start. Despite almost being neighbors, Florida and Georgia have taken different paths on their respective journeys to growth stardom. And while Georgia has definitely held its own in the growth department, Florida has practically put the pedal to the metal, leaving Georgia behind in the wake of its population boom. Before Florida and Georgia became the vibrant states we know today, they were home to a diverse array of indigenous tribes, each with their own unique cultures and histories. But it was the arrival of those ambitious European explorers that truly set the wheels in motion. If you cast your mind back to the early days of European colonization, you will find that the spotlight often falls on the likes of Virginia and Massachusetts. But we are going to shift the spotlight to shine on the truth. As it turns out, the first European settlements within what is now the United States actually took root in the sunny land of Florida. In the fateful month of April in 1513, Spanish conquistador Juan Ponce de Leon made his historic landing on the North American mainland. And it was right around the area we now know as St. Augustine. Now, while the tale of Ponce de Leon seeking the mythical fountain of youth is woven into the fabric of folklore, it's nothing more than a charming work of fiction. Sorry to burst that bubble, folks. However, whatever fiction that may be, Ponce de Leon's landing sparked a flurry of exploration and settlement efforts by both Spain and France. Fast forward to the annals of history, and we see how these divergent colonial origins have left their indelible marks on the modern makeup of Florida and Georgia. Florida, with its Spanish and French heritage, carries a distinct Latin flair that intertwines with the vibrant tapestry of cultures, attracting visitors and retirees like moths to a flame. Meanwhile, Georgia took a different colonial path, established as a British colony in the 18th century. Its roots run deep with that quintessential Southern charm, a nod to its British colonial history and the subsequent blending of cultures that unfolded. A successful colonial settlement in Florida. In the early days of colonial ventures, successful settlements were about as rare as a unicorn sighting. Take Spain's first establishment, for example. In 1559, Spain boldly established its first settlement in the land we know now as Pensacola. However, the dream was short-lived. For a mere 2 years later, in 1561, they abandoned it. Then, not to be outdone, the French decided to stake their claim in the game. In 1564, they established a fort in what is present-day Duval County. Little did the French know that the Spanish were not too keen on sharing the neighborhood, so they sent away military force to crush those French ambitions. But the year 1565 marked a turning point. It was then that Spain laid foundation for the settlement of San Agustin, known today as the enchanting Saint Augustine. Fun fact, this settlement would proudly bear the crown of being the oldest continuously occupied European settlement in the continental United States. Now, let's shift our gaze a little north and a few decades forward. The grand stage is set for the birth of the colony to be known as Georgia. Much like its southern sibling, Florida, the Spanish were the first explorers to venture into the region, fueled by their insatiable thirst for trade routes and precious resources. Yet, despite their many forays into the area, Spain failed to establish any permanent settlements within the confines of Georgia. Meanwhile, the French couldn't resist dipping their toes into the colonial waters either. They founded a settlement in the future land of Charleston, South Carolina, only to abandon it shortly thereafter. But who knew that the English would come in and steal the show? In 1670, England flexed its colonial muscles and established the province of Carolina. English fur traders, armed with their trusty muskets and an appetite for abundant hunting grounds, often ventured southward. All the while, Spain, ever vigilant, built a series of missions in an attempt to convert the native populations to Christianity. Sensing a looming clash, the English knew that Spain's northward expansion from their Florida settlements was inevitable. And so, in 1704, a military campaign launched by the English and their Native American allies set out to dismantle the Spanish mission system in Georgia. They succeeded in driving the Spanish out of the region and back into the welcoming embrace of Florida. With the path cleared of Spanish influence, the stage was set for a new chapter in the land we now call Georgia. Then came the aftermath of the Industrial Revolution. The 1900s were a time of immense growth for the good old USA. After the Industrial Revolution, many factors came together, like puzzle pieces of awesomeness, to drive this expansion. A high birth rate, advancements in medicine that kept more folks alive and kicking, and the influx of immigrants? All check. Ireland, in particular, deserves a special shout-out for providing 4.5 million migrants between 1880 and 1930. That's a lot of leprechauns leaving the Emerald Isle for the land of the free. And as if that weren't enough, the two world wars further fueled the fire, with even more people flocking to the shores of good old USA. Now, initially many of these newcomers settled in the northeastern states. Can you blame them? It is hard not being drawn to the bright lights of the big cities. But as time went on, they started spreading their wings and exploring new horizons across the vast expanse of this great nation. In the 1950s, the economy was booming. The baby boom was in full swing, and external migration was on the rise. This perfect storm resulted in population explosions happening left and right. Now, let's zoom in on Florida. Back in 1950, Georgia had a population of 3.4 million, while Florida had a respectable 2.7 million residents. But hold on. Because just 20 short years later, Florida skyrocketed to a nearly 6.8 million people, and Georgia could only watch in awe as it lagged behind with a population of 4.6 million. But what caused this dramatic shift, you ask? There were multiple factors at play. You see, during the early 1900s, there was a significant migration of African Americans from Georgia, Florida, and other southern states to the north. They sought refuge from the oppressive laws of the South, where discrimination reigned supreme. While Georgia's population took a hit from this exodus, Florida experienced something of a real estate boom during this time. And the rest is history, Cuban Revolution and all. Sunshine states appeal today. Today we all know Florida as the land of sunshine and retirees. It turns out that Florida's weather plays a major role in attracting a substantial number of elderly migrants. Who can blame them? Escaping the chilly winters up north for a perpetual summer sounds pretty enticing, right? But here's the thing. While the elderly population is a significant part of Florida's growth, it's not the whole story. Florida is also a hotbed for job opportunities, drawing in younger professionals and families. Cities like Miami, Orlando, and Tampa have seen substantial job growth, which is like music to the ears of those seeking career prospects. And here's a neat little perk. Florida doesn't have a state income tax. That's right, folks. Keep more of that hard-earned cash in your pocket while enjoying the sunny vibes. Florida boasts a diverse and robust economy that keeps the wheels turning. Let's take a look at some of those industries that make Florida shine like a supernova of economic awesomeness. First up, we have the aviation and aerospace industry, thanks to the prestigious Kennedy Space Center calling Florida home. Then, it is also making waves in the clean technology realm. With over 11,750 clean tech companies registered in the state, they're paving the way towards a greener future. And when it comes to the pharmaceutical and medical manufacturing, Florida is not playing around. It proudly holds the second rank in the country with a staggering 46,000 healthcare establishments to boot. Added to this, Florida consistently ranks as one of the best states for business, and it's no wonder. With no payroll taxes and a corporate income tax rate of only 5.5%, it's a haven for businesses to thrive. In fact, it's ranked as the 4th best state for business tax climate. But let's not forget about Georgia. It's been experiencing its fair share of growth as well. While not as sunny as its neighbor to the south, Georgia has been making strides, with an impressive population of nearly 11 million people. Atlanta, the state's shining star, is the place to be, with around 6 million residents calling it home. However, Georgia faces a slight challenge when it comes to attracting migrants. While Atlanta is a bustling metropolis, there aren't as many economically viable cities within the state compared to Florida's multiple destination centers. Conclusion. So what's the bottom line? Well, Florida's combination of favorable taxes, external migration, and a plethora of bustling cities has positioned it as the dominant state between the two. It's a magnet for retirees, job seekers, and those who simply can't resist the allure of sunshine and sandy beaches. Georgia, while making strides, relies heavily on Atlanta as its main attraction. Both states are set to continue growing in the future, but Florida's multifaceted growth patterns give it an edge we do not see blunting anytime soon. Enjoyed this video? Give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to our channel for more informative content, and share this video with your friends. See you next time!